You gotta watch the Jason Sands Air Force Insider tells he has seen and communicated with an alien in the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay, that sounds so cool. What is his name? Jason Sands. This thumbnail goes so hard.
But anyway.
The Joe Rogan experience.
But where's the one where he communicates with the alien? Because this sounds more like he's describing when he goes to the crash site. Oh, here. A crazy story of the Eben alien. Brother, I talked to people that talk to aliens today. Yeah, no, they crash landed here a little while back. The Eben. The Eben aliens. It's unbelievable. Like, Joe Rogan absorbs, like, actually every single thing a human being says, and he's like, holy shit. You've given me a lot to think about. This is big. This is big.
With us, have you heard?
I love that. I love that. Just go on there and just spit some fanfic, and Joe's like, holy shit. A portal. Wow. I always knew. But this is irrefutable proof now that you've given me. I wonder if Joe Rogan does any verification on these people. Like, how easy would it be to claim to be an alien researcher and get on the show? You should try to get one of your friends on the show. That'd be... So I was thinking about that. I just don't know who you contact for booking. Because they're, like, I think it's pretty obvious, bare minimum. He does, like, actually the bare minimum to make sure the person's, like, alive. So he doesn't book, like, a corpse or something. Like, as long as you have a pulse, I think you probably have a really good chance if you just come up with, like, a really interesting story. Jerry slander's crazy. That's not even slander, that's just factual, man. He just brought on this guy who's talking about an alien in a portal from the Eben alien interrogation. Like, come on. And Joe's just like, wow. Wow. I used to watch a lot of Rogan. It's just rough now. Ever since the Rock went on for the self-fucking autofellatio, I can't stand it anymore. Get some of your friends to put some AI books about aliens on Amazon and make conspiracy socials for them. Send it to Rogan, hope to get on. I don't think we need to do that much. I think if you just sent an email to his booking about, like, some bullshit credentials and, like, some AI fanfic slop on aliens, you'd probably have a good chance. Because that's fundamentally what this guy seems to have done. You should ask to go on. CoffeeZilla's already been on. Well, that's not the fun, though. The fun would be doing, like, an alien segment. That'd be the whole purpose. So you just go on there and you talk about, like, absolute baloney with aliens. If you say you found an actual ghost, you'd be believable because of your past vehement rejection of their existence. I'm still on the hunt to find an actual ghost. I'm still actively looking. One day. I don't believe in those bitches, but one day I'm hoping. Who had that take? Snyder. I think it's a tier 1 Benny. Here, I'll pull up some of the clips. Zack Snyder went on Rogan and made a downright fool of himself. Here. Does IGN have some of the clips, or do I have to go through Twitter? Thanks for your raw dog. Here we go. Oh my god. At least link to the actual fucking timestamp. Oh my god. I'm sorry to hear that, Jacob. Wishing you a speedy recovery. And I don't think I've seen their content before. And yeah, the Toriyama announcement was very sad. Do any of these articles have the clips? Just link to the goddamn timestamp. I'll just go through Twitter like a downright fool. Here.
Like, people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like, you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. Like,
I mean, it's a stupid take. It's a really stupid take. I don't even know where to begin. He goes on to say more dumb shit, but that's like the big one people were dunking on. He's not wrong, though. He is, like, legitimately wrong. What do you mean? It's a stupid take. It's just really dumb. It's a horrible take after watching the Dark Knight trilogy. Dark Knight trilogy, Arkham series, well, up until, of course, you know how that played out. The Batman, the most recent one, you can give tons and tons and tons of examples on how objectively wrong that is. Thanks to Prime Ferris. I got so mad at all the slow-mo and Rebel Moon, I just turned it off. Rebel Moon sucks. I said it when I first watched it, it sucks. And I don't think he's released the Snyder cut that everyone's been hyping up. Like, yeah, we know this was terrible, but wait until Snyder releases like the full 6-hour video on it. Or full 6-hour version on it. The no-kill rule is why Gotham is a shithole? Yeah, but you're not getting it. Batman himself is also fucking insane. That's like part of his character. Like, it would objectively be better if Batman killed, but the fact he doesn't is what makes him interesting. If Batman actually killed, he'd save so many more people. But he can't. He cannot. And it makes him interesting. So he's an idiot. He is insane. This is such a nerdy topic that's been beaten to death by every single person in the fucking world. Batman and the Joker are basically the same character on different ends of the spectrum, which is why their dynamic is always so interesting to watch unfold. But also why it ends up getting a little, like, pretentious from time to time, because of how much it constantly gets talked about and explored in similar ways. He's the Prime Darkest. He kills in the comics. He kills in spin-offs. There's versions of the Batman that kills. Fucking Bat Dad kills. Like, there's versions that do. If given the chance, would you watch a movie about Red Hood directed by Snyder? I mean, I don't hate Zack Snyder or anything. But I don't like a lot of his movies. And yeah, I know about Toriyama. We talked about it. He was also coping about Rebel Moon. He said more people saw Rebel Moon than Barbie. Oh, I didn't see that. Where was that? Is it here?
So
is this
in
it?
Dark Knight Returns, there's...
No. It's still Batman. What do you say about Rebel Moon? Because that was just straight up dog ass. Yeah, I don't see any clips on that. People probably didn't even find that interesting enough to clip because of how boring Rebel Moon is. Oh, wait, here's... Oh, no, that's not a clip. Yeah, it is. Wait, is it? Nope. Just links to the podcast. He says the Snyder cut of Rebel Moon is more like heavy metal and rated R. Yeah, this is a quote that someone put out there, but I, of course, haven't seen the clip and I didn't watch the whole episode, so I don't know if it's true or not. But Zack Snyder says Rebel Moon's director cut is the hardest R imaginable. I don't know what that means. I guess it's just porn at that point. Just type Rebel Moon Barbie into Google. Okay, I'll try that. Okay, does this take me to the clip? Why don't these articles just link the goddamn clip here? They just keep going to the full podcast. Even though the clips are just right there on Twitter that they're referencing the tweets from. I feel like it'd be simpler just to do that. But yeah, he's claiming that more people saw Rebel Moon than Barbie. That's 1.6 billion, Zack Snyder claims. I mean, it's on Netflix, so maybe. I guess. I always wonder about that. Even like dog shit like Rebel Moon, where people most of them turn it off pretty early because it's super boring and just terrible. I feel like there's a lot of others that'll just have idle things playing on Netflix and Rebel Moon flicks through and they think nothing of it, so it just counts for them. Thanks, Reese Pepper. My dad watched it and he watches anything. He said he didn't like it, which I think is the sentiment everyone that watched Rebel Moon shared. It's terrible. Yeah, I didn't watch the whole episode. I don't know if Snyder was like a good guest or anything. All I saw was his Batman takes, which were really stupid. Or maybe people just watch it because they're not critics. So what does that mean? You don't have to be a critic to not like something. You don't have to just mindlessly like everything. It's just a boring, bad movie. Who wants to watch a guy slow jog in fucking the most awful slow-mo that's drawn out for way too long imaginable? Everything is slow-mo in that movie. Thanks, Resub Duck. It has nothing to do with being a critic. It has to do with having eyes. Oh, I'm absolutely going to be streaming that one, Ross. Or Rose. Thanks, Prime Trev. Way too much slow-mo, but it was fun bad. I think at times, Rebel Moon was fun bad. Like, here. Let me pull up the clip that I'm referencing. This was fun bad. This had me giggling. I imagine it'll come up. No, it didn't. I thought for sure this would be a clip at how bad this slow-mo is. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Thanks for your sub, Chaz. Is that not out here? Or is it being taken down? It might be being taken down, actually. Any word on more Moisty Sports, or how to keep up with the schedule? We posted on Twitter. Yeah, we've got Rocket League and Apex and Smash this weekend. Are you going to be playing a difficult game about climbing, the new Getting Over It? I might. But not tonight. Tonight I'll probably do Siege. What even is Rebel Moon? Even after the trailer, I didn't know what the fuck it's supposed to be. Rebel Moon is fundamentally Star Wars with a different skin and slowed down to .25 speed. That's Rebel Moon in a nutshell. Are you gonna watch the 6-hour Snyder cut? I don't know. I don't think I can force myself to do it. I don't think I can push through. I really don't. I don't think it'll be fun bad, and there's no shot it actually becomes good. Though, the Snyder cut for Justice League was enjoyable. But I just don't think Rebel Moon even has the DNA to be good. Maybe play more vaudeville? We'll see. It is pinned, Everwake. And I don't know enough about the Ryan Garcia stuff. All I know is the Bohemian Grove was mentioned. So then that led to an influx of a ton of clips. But I haven't watched all the Ryan Garcia shit. And yeah, the new Glorb's Fire. And of course I saw that one, Jamie. I'm sure you've already heard by now. You're probably still crying from the betrayal. Joe Rogan has gone too far this time. He's attacked gamers. As a fan of Joe Rogan, and more importantly as a gamer, an elite gaming barbarian with gamer gunk in the veins, I had to tear down every photograph I had of Joe Rogan framed, every poster off my walls. I destroyed my Joe Rogan effigy, I blew out my Joe Brogan candle, and I'm just wiping my hands of this guy, cause it's just disgusting what he said about gamers. Joe Rogan could go on his podcast, bend over and give himself an enema with my grandfather's ashes, and I would still find a way to forgive and support him. Just laugh it off, but what he's done to gamers, what he said about us, it's unforgivable. Let me show you the clip.
Video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fucking fun.
Addictive.
And you don't, yeah, well, I have a real problem with them. And you do them and they're real exciting, but you don't get anywhere.
Right.
It's like you could do like martial arts, right? You could learn jiu-jitsu. You get obsessed by jiu-jitsu, and then 3 years later, you're like an elite jiu-jitsu athlete. You're entering in competitions. You're a purple belt.
You're moving up.
Yeah, you're doing well. Right. You're thinking like, I might be able to open my own school one day.
You got confidence.
Yeah, if I have 100 students and those 100 students are paying me X amount of dollars per month, I can make a living. Or you could just be playing fucking video games. 3 years later, you could be that same kid just playing video games, waiting for the next whatever the fuck game is, next Xbox game to come out, and you're gonna waste your time.
I know you've already seen the clip on Twitter, and I don't mean to open the wound again and pour salt on it and take a piss on it, but you needed to see it for the context for anyone that doesn't know. I mean, this right here, this is a declaration of war, a war on gamers. Now, Twitter would have you believe this statement from Joe Rogan made the earth stop rotating. It was so powerful and evil that all the good in the world all at once just vanished because Joe said these things. Now, I want to talk about this because I think it's blown way out of proportion. Not that I think his point is any good here, it's still dog shit and it's just kind of a stupid thing to say. He goes on to clarify a bit further about, people told him he could never do comedy because no one makes it in comedy, and then he proved them all wrong. So basically what he's saying is, you have to be the best in the world at a game that has the staying power to stay a popular game to make it as a gamer or make a career out of gaming. Basically the whole thing equates to, gaming doesn't necessarily guarantee you money, and since it doesn't guarantee you money, it's not a good use of time. Which is obviously just a fucked up thing to say. Just because something doesn't guarantee you money doesn't mean you've wasted your time by doing it if you've enjoyed doing it. And he's just outright wrong. Gaming is probably the most viable career for the majority of people in the world thanks to something called streaming. I don't know if Joe is familiar with what streaming is. Maybe he's still stuck like a Neanderthal in caves banging two rocks together for entertainment. I'm not really sure. But streaming is accessible to everyone in the world with a computer. By gaming, you can make a career out of streaming, and you don't have to be the best in the world at the game to have a streaming career. You don't have to be good at a game to have a career as a streamer, but you do have to be among the top 1% in the world to make it as a professional athlete and make a career out of sports. In Joe's example, he talks about martial arts. You do martial arts for 3 years, then you're an elite martial artist, and hey, maybe you open a dojo and make a career that way. Well, that's 3 fucking years of doing nothing. Isn't that kind of a waste of time by your own criteria, Joe? They spent 3 years doing martial arts for free, and in fact losing money because they're paying for the classes, for the very slim chance that they open a dojo, which isn't very easy. You have to already be financially secure, and you have to get lucky, and you have to get a bunch of students. He says 100 students. Well, it's a lot harder to get 100 students to a brick-and-mortar martial arts facility than it is to get 100 viewers online from playing a game, even at a mediocre level. It's a lot more difficult. So, and using Joe Rogan's criteria, everything can be boiled down to a waste of time, especially sports. Less than 1% of everyone who plays sports will make a career out of sports. You have to be an absolute fucking freak. Literally some of the best human beings in the world in those categories to make a career out of that path. So every time you're playing basketball, playing football, playing soccer, like recreationally or even part of a small league, and you're not making money, you're wasting your time by Joe Rogan's gauge here. And I'd argue it's a much bigger waste of your time using Joe Rogan's metrics because you most likely are not going to make it as a professional athlete. It is so incredibly slim, the chance of you making it as a professional athlete. But the chance of you making it as a streamer is significantly higher because of how many people are watching streams and just the accessibility of it. You don't have to be the best in the world. You genuinely don't even have to be good at games to make it as a streamer. As long as you can entertain a crowd or just be there for people that just want to watch someone casually, you can have a career there. So it's a lot easier and a lot more accessible to make a career out of your video game obsession than it is your sports and martial arts obsession. His point just isn't very good, but I don't think he's entirely wrong with what he's talking about, where if you dedicate your life every single day, every moment of your free time is dedicated to playing a game with no other dreams of streaming it or, taking it further to a professional level like an esports organization or something, then yes, you're a little worse off than the people that are obsessed with sports that'll never make it, because at least with sports you're a lot more physically active in your life, you're developing some more social skills around people in the world, and you're probably just living a healthier lifestyle in general compared to the guy that's just snorting Doritos like cocaine and playing Fortnite 9 hours a day with nothing else that they want to do. But to be honest, I don't even know if that's the point he's making, because I don't think he even registered streaming as a possibility. I think in Joe's mind, the only way to make a career out of gaming is being the best in the world at a game and making it to a professional esports organization level. I think Joe equates gaming to the same level as professional athletes where only the top 1% make it, because he hasn't registered streaming as a viable career, even though streaming is one of the most lucrative careers there is, the most accessible careers out there, and it's just genuinely something that anyone can do and find a lot of success with. No matter your upbringing, no matter your talent level, as long as you can find an audience, as long as you can just get out there, you have a very good chance of making it, where you can't say that same thing about any other path in the world, especially fucking sports and martial arts, like Joe keeps saying. I don't get how Joe has this disconnect where he's saying you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 3 years and then maybe open a dojo with 100 students as if that's something easy or natural. You've spent 3 years investing your time and money into this area with only the very unrealistic possibility that you become a very successful martial arts dojo owner. Whereas when it comes to gaming and streaming, you don't need to invest 3 years of your time and talent into trying to make it as a streamer. You can start today. You can start right now, even if you've never touched a video game in your life. You can just turn on a stream, play a video game for the first time, and maybe find yourself an audience. It doesn't make any sense really what his point is, other than maybe just thinking that gamers spend 12 hours a day only playing games in isolation in a basement with the lights off and shit-stained underwear, doing nothing else. Which might be true for some people, but overall it's still just a really fucking dumb point to make, because it can be boiled down to apply to every fucking field. Sports, acting, writing, all of it is all, by Joe's criteria here, a waste of time, because it's not guaranteeing you money. And you could read a book, you could write books for 3 years, and then in 3 years still not have a career out of it and just be reading and writing fucking books. But would you necessarily vilify people who like to read and write? Probably not. Same for sports. You can play basketball from the fucking time you're born, right out of the womb. You can start dribbling a basketball all the way until the time you graduate college and might not make it into the NBA. Most likely won't make it into the NBA. So was all of that time playing basketball wasted since you didn't make any money and now you have no career in this thing you've dedicated 24 years of your life to? Eh, probably not, because you've likely enjoyed it, and you likely just enjoy the sport as a whole. It's just a stupid criteria to make it where something has to guarantee you money to have it be worth your time. I don't think that's a good way of looking at things. I think that's fucking stupid. And he chose the actual worst target for his example because this is the only fucking field in the world where you literally can make a career out of nothing by just being mediocre or just being entertaining while playing a game by turning on a stream, which is free to do. The software is all free. You can literally just start a stream right now and might just find yourself a career tomorrow. And for some reason, Joe chose this one as like a dead-end hobby. Literally the only fucking hobby that can stay a hobby and give you a career. Whereas every other hobby, in order to make a career out of it, you need to turn it into a full-time job and commitment. When it comes to gaming, you can literally keep that a hobby and just stream sometimes and find yourself a financially viable career. But I think this has all gotten blown way out of proportion. People are treating this like this was some kind of nuclear bomb on gaming, like all of a sudden all the gamers out there are just gonna throw down their controller like Joe Rogan said it's a waste of time. Pfft, it's a waste of time. It's not that big a deal. It's just a kind of harmless, stupid take. That's genuinely just about all there is to it. That's about it. So yeah. Well, in the original Iron Man, he was set up to be War Machine. So Terrence Howard is a very popular actor. He's been in a lot of big things, but the one most people know him for is his role in Iron Man. He got replaced by Don Cheadle because Terrence said he was really unhappy that he wasn't making as much money as Robert Downey Jr. And there's so much to go in here. This is an onion with many layers. Terrence Howard also believes that he has discovered and created his own logic language, which he calls teriology. He has spent the better part of, I think, about 7 or 8 years, trying to mathematically prove that 1 times 1 equals 2, and that 0 doesn't exist. Didn't he say people watched Iron Man because of him? Yeah, he credits Iron Man's success to his role. Yeah, this is the 1 times 1 equals 2 guy. But I always knew about that shit, but I didn't know that wasn't the end of it. So I was reading some of the comments here and getting as much information. I'm going to show you the scam that he's trying to run right now in a minute. But I was reading so much about him and like going through this rabbit hole. And this is from one of his books, apparently. I haven't read the whole book, but I'm assuming it's an excerpt because it has to go with his idea that 0 isn't real. So, where is it? Here. I made that statement, there's no such thing as zero. He looked at me with a puzzled look upon his face, and the professor said, let's say you had an apple, and I had an apple, and you gave me your apple. How many apples do you have? I said, I have 2 apples. He said, you don't understand, you gave me your apple. I said, no, you don't understand. Actual, I'm 14 and this is deep shit. As long as you are still inside this universe, whatever you have, I have. Because everything in this universe is connected to everything else. Even if you could take my apple and place it into an adjacent universe, I would still have 2 apples because as long as the universe is touching this universe, then everything in that universe is still connected to and influenced by every single atom in this universe. Therefore, my giving you my apple is paramount to me transferring my apple from my left to my right hand because all things are one. So using his own logic language here, he should have no right to be whining about not getting paid as much as Robert Downey Jr. because basically Robert Downey Jr.'s money is his money. That's the argument he makes here. The man is a walking contradiction of his own dog shit logic. Okay, but that was years ago. What? No, he still does this. What? Look, this is from 2 days ago.
Was there for 2 years until I saw that there was an inconsistency
with the math.
There.
Yep.
And so I went out to explore
1 times 1 equals 2
of understanding how the universe works, and I was able to define the grand unified field equation they've been looking for and put it into geometry. And then with that geometry, I was able to
put
he's done it on that. And what I'm saying is now we have invented a new form of flight that I would like to bring here to Uganda to replace the drones, to replace the helicopters, to replace the planes in which to build this. Now, this is the geometry of hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Of hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
This is the proton itself. So any bond that hydrogen can make, our linchpins are able to make. So we're talking about unlimited bonding, unlimited predictable
it's like an anime.
structures, supersymmetry. And
so many buzzwords.
Linchpins are now able to behave as a swarm, as a colony that can defend a nation, that can harvest food, that can remove plastics from the ocean, that
can do anything, can fuck your own wife.
Uganda and the people of Uganda an opportunity without having to have our young men lose their lives.
All thanks to the hydrogen linchpin bonding geometry that he was able to discover. See, I don't know what you're talking about, but that was years ago. He still believes this and does this actively. This was 3 days ago at a conference, trying to sell them on a scam. And this was back when I first found him. He published a paper on 1 times 1 equals 2. And he posted it on Twitter to get laughed at. Oh, another really interesting thing. This one's more sad than interesting, honestly. Terrence Howard, when he was a child, witnessed his dad stab a guy to death at a mall during a Santa Claus showing. They called it the Santa line slaying. I had no idea, but I learned this yesterday. When Terrence Howard was a child, him and his father were in line to sit on Santa's lap, and his dad got into an altercation with another guy. I think his name was Jack Fitzpatrick. They started arguing. Jack Fitzpatrick eventually pushed Terrence Howard's dad against a wall, and then they got broken up, and then Terrence's dad got some sharp object. No one knows whether it was a knife or if someone gave him something or whatever, because there was apparently a story about how a bystander gave him a nail filer to fight back, and he took the sharp object and stabbed him a lot, and he died. And it's called the Santa line slaying. And Terrence Howard is so shameless that he went on Oprah's show and told a complete fabrication of the events that happened, so much so that Terrence Howard's own dad came out and basically just called him a lying clout chaser. Why would you stab someone who you just met? You make it sound like it was at Thanksgiving or something. They got into an argument, and apparently both parties were at fault. They both got rowdy, but Terrence Howard's dad took it much further than the other guy, clearly, and stabbed him to death. All over cutting in line during a Santa Claus event at a mall. Oh, this is also a really cool quote that people always give thanks for. If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1. But we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. Fucking poetry, man. That's so deep. This man is traveling through dimensions with this advanced mathematics. That paragraph would fool 60% of Americans into thinking it's accurate. No, you're actually wrong. So, and I understand, like, Americans super dumb, and I've been on Twitter, so I think everyone's kind of fucking dumb to some level. But even Terryology, nobody besides Terry believes in. So Terrence Howard, like I said, has spent the better part of like 7 years trying to prove his logic language, 1 × 1 = 2, 0 doesn't exist, all these things. And it's called Terryology. And I believe he even patented it. Nobody, not even his most brainwashed fans, believe in it. They still laugh at him for it, to this day. I really want to find the tweet, though, because in his own paper that he published to prove 1 × 1 = 2, he put in an entire section of fan fiction about the Sky People, the Anunnaki that once indoctrinated us into believing 1 × 1 = 1, or something, whatever the fuck it was. I need to find that tweet. It was somewhere in these comments. So this is his paper on 1 × 1 = 2. And in this section right here, he starts talking about the Anunnaki Sky People in his own, like, actual published paper to try and debunk incorrect mathematics. Some call them the Anunnaki, the Sky People, whomever they were that gave that naive generation some 6,000 years ago a multiplication table and a flat view of universal geometry. They gave that poor misguided people a false axiom upon which to build their world. A false axiom that would behave almost as a bumper for our infantile-like species. A tutor, as it were. A false axiom that would allow for a measure of growth and productivity for that civilization, but would inevitably lead to failure and its inevitable collapse. Unfortunately, the later generations would eventually come to inherit this once thriving Mediterranean metropolis that includes, and not so lucky, entire world. Now for the last 5,000 or plus years, our ancestors enslaved our thinking with that dogma for generations upon generations, leading down to our great-grandparents, and who, in like manner, indoctrinated their children, who in turn would help the newly formed system called tradition to propagate this false truth to the rest of the world. This is a paper he published to try and prove 1 × 1 = 2. And that is in the paper. Holy fuck, this guy is based. I'm a Terryologist now. Hey, man. Nothing but respect to all the Terryologists out there. He says that 0 doesn't exist. I know. I was just talking about that. He believes that 0 can't exist because all of our universes touch each other, so everything is 1. Which, again, this ties into the idea. If Terrence really believes that, why not just give away all of his money? Because it'd still be his money. He'd still have his money by his own logic. Just give it to everyone who commented on this Twitter post. Give it to the Terryologists. 100% this is because of a bad acid trip. It's super possible, but I actually think it's probably rooted in something much sadder. Like I mentioned, he watched his dad murder a man in line for Santa Claus. Like, that's a traumatizing thing. I think from the get-go, this guy was just kind of fucked. Hashtag proof. Was that to me? It's a very well documented thing here. It's called the Santa line slang. Happened in 1971, I think. Yeah, 1971. Jack Fitzpatrick and I believe his dad's name is Tyrone Howard. Yeah, Tyrone Howard. That's a cool origin story. Yeah, I don't know about cool necessarily. But it actually does sound like an origin story out of a comic book. And then he just recently made that statement in Uganda, which actually does sound like a supervillain giving away his plan about how he solved the universal, whatever, grand levitation equation or some shit, and how he's using hydrogen bonds for unlimited power, and it'll be a drone, it'll be a plane, it'll clean plastics from the ocean. Oh yeah, the hydrogen proton. Right. I like his math. I'm pretty sure this doubles my money. Well, it's not your money to begin with, it's Terrence's money. It's all of our money. Read the book on stream and convert the chat to Terryology. Well, the book isn't like... As I understand it, the book is shit like this, where he starts talking about the Anunnaki Sky People, and then just throwing formulas all over the place, but getting all of the formulas wrong. Like, endlessly wrong. So it's not exactly like a book to be read. It's more of like a look into lunacy, like written out. Maybe Terry was right. Can you imagine? Imagine 50 years from now, it turns out all of our math was wrong, and they look at Terrence Howard as like a prophet. They look at him as like a genius that wasn't appreciated during his time for his work on 1 × 1 = 2 and 0 not being real. Just fucking imagine that universe. In 500 years, we'll have a Terrence statue outside the MIT building. Well, by then we'll already have mastered the the hydrogen proton technology. So we will have flying buildings by then. We won't even use statues. It'll be like hydrogen molds. I actually remember he went on... Was it Good Morning Today? Or it might have been The View. I think it was The View, to talk about teriology.
Go ahead. Okay.
Now, a couple years ago, I did an article for the Rolling Stones, and they said I was crazy because I was telling them that the square root of 2 was a rational number. This is the proof that the square root of 2 is a rational number.
Well, you went to Oxford to present.
Fuck, now I see it.
About the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely.
Can I touch it?
Yes, and it's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on this show.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah!
Well, when I was at Oxford,
I love that geometry.
they were so upset. Our entire world economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1. So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then 1 × 1 must equal more than 1. And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Well, that's the Oxford.
I guess they don't like
I think The View, and like maybe just talk shows in general, are one of the most detrimental things to the American household that we've ever had. Second only to like Twitter and shit, I would say. It just platforms absolute insanity. It's wild. Like, it's baffling. They don't even bother to even, like, ask the most general questions like, well, how? Can you prove it? Are you sure? Really? They're just constantly sucking dick all the time for whatever guest they bring on. Blows my mind.
So here's my question for you, because we were talking about immigration before on the panel, and I'm a child of Italian-American grandparents my mother was born here.
Okay, well, I guess we're done with teriology. They steered that topic away real quick. Tony Stark himself taught Terry that 1 × 1 = 2. Yeah, he should really credit Tony Stark somewhere in this paper, but I don't think he does. No respect. It's just such a fascinating rabbit hole. I implore anyone who likes wild, wacky shit to look into teriology. I do believe it is patented. Let me double check. People are more gullible now than they ever have been in the history of this species. That is just a fact. People are throwing away any level of thinking and rationality just to believe in the most outlandish garbage imaginable and just falling victim to every scam you could ever possibly drum up. 3 days ago, the stupid man's genius, Terrence Howard, went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan only piped up for 13 minutes out of this 3-hour Arkham Asylum debriefing. That's 13 minutes worth of speaking from Rogan here. The rest was Terrence Howard brainwashing idiots into thinking that he's some kind of enlightened genius. For almost a decade now, Terrence Howard has gone on this international mission to convince the world that teriology is the future. That's what he calls his logic language. Teriology. Let that just marinate in your noodles up here for a second. You're believing in a guy who's fucking preaching about teriology. So, there already exists so many people that have broken down everything Terrence Howard is wrong about in the teriology logic language system. I'm just going to focus on his biggest one. 1 × 1 = 2. That is something that he has built his entire fucking identity around when it comes to his math. And for the first 9 years of this one-man traveling circus, everyone laughed at him because it's so outrageous. If we followed teriology, cars, phones, planes, medicine, literally everything that is keeping you alive right now would not exist, because his logic language
is fundamentally wrong. It's not up for interpretation. He is provably wrong in every possible measurement. And I want to dive into this deeply because so many people are thinking that he is correct. They are throating his cock and balls, literally slobbering all over his meat because he went on Rogan and used words they didn't understand. So since they didn't understand the words, they took it as a sign that this guy's the fucking chosen one when it comes to math. I'm not even mad at Terrence Howard. I want to make that clear. I'm mad that a lot of people think Terrence Howard is right. I am more mad at the gullibility of people to just take this at face value without doing any level of thinking for themselves. It's so easy now for people to just throw away their own thoughts and just let people tell them what they should believe in. They're like, yep, that sounds right. I want to believe in that, so I will. It's so fucking frustrating because that sets us so far back. Now, before I even dive deep into this rabbit hole, I want to tackle his biggest one that he has always put on the boxing gloves and fought for the honor of, which is 1 times 1 equaling 2. He even made his own YouTube video here explaining how 1 times 1 equals 2, and admittedly, if you set aside everything that he's wrong about, he's still fucking wrong. He doesn't even come close to accidentally tickling something correct. He is fishing around in the dark looking for a urinal to piss on, but he keeps pissing on the floor because he can't find it. He doesn't decide to just turn the lights on. He wants to live in this absolute, void of logic. I am going to demonstrate why 1 times 1 can never equal 2. A 3rd grader could do this, and I'm going to break it down in a way that no matter how stupid you are, and no matter how much you want to believe in this concept, it can't work. In no dimension in the multiverse could this ever be a real possibility. So when you're saying times, when you're using multiplication here, you're talking about the groups of something. So 1 group of 1 is 1, but let's get more physical with it. And I'm going to do it using a physical object here. We're going to get real, kinetic with it. And I'm going to use the GamerSupps Moist Waifu Cup. So this is me on the cup, big titty anime girl. It's available at gamersupps.gg. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's available for the next 2 weeks. This just seemed like a natural segue into mentioning that while I demonstrate this. Now let's put this concept into practice in a real-world scenario. You catch me at the grocery store, you say, "Pardon me, Charles, looking extraordinarily breedable as ever today. I have this box of moist GamerSupps waifu cups. Come take a peek." And I march on over and I say, "By Jove, look at that. There is a single moist waifu shaker cup in that box. There is 1 box with 1 moist GamerSupps cup in it. 1 box with 1 cup. I pick that up, I would have 1 shaker cup. 1 times 1 equals 1. That's just how it works. There's not any scenario where all of a sudden this waifu shaker cup is going to start budding like it's fucking SpongeBob and I'll end up with 2 somehow. That's not how it works. I have 1 box that has 1 cup in it. You come up to me again, this time it's at a Sam Ash music store, I'm fucking blowing away at a trumpet. You say, "Charles, check out these moist GamerSupps waifu shaker cups I have in these boxes." I say, "Oh, how many cups are per box?" You say, "There's 2 waifu shaker cups in these boxes," and I have 2 boxes. 2 boxes of 2 waifu shaker cups, that's 4 total waifu shaker cups. 2 times 2. It's, this shouldn't be a hard thing for people to grasp. These aren't hard to understand, but when you have someone like Terrence Howard preaching just completely incorrect things, it's able to mislead people who want to believe in something different, that want to have this big paradigm shift in mathematics, which I don't really get. Why do you want mathematics to change? The only reason you're alive right now is because of that. You would have likely already been mauled by a bear, died from an infection, died from dysentery, wouldn't have made it past the Oregon Trail, way before you even made it to whatever your current age is, if we didn't have math. We wouldn't be where we are today. You wouldn't be watching this. You would likely be out there hunting and gathering and probably dying in the process. There is nothing that changes about this kind of concept when it comes to math. Now, it's important to note, I'm not a mathematician. That's something Terrence Howard and I have in common. But I think if I was a mathematician, most of you would trust me less. You'd think I'd been indoctrinated by big math or something to keep the genius revolutionaries like Terrence Howard down when it comes to these innovative concepts of new math. No, an actual child could prove why 1 times 1 will always equal 1, and never 2. It doesn't take a genius to prove that Terrence Howard is wrong. It takes an ordinary person using their own brain a little bit. And Terrence Howard is hoping that you're not one of those people that think for themselves. For some reason, we've entered the age where people don't trust experts anymore. The individuals that have dedicated their lives to a certain subject like math now have the most scrutiny from the average ordinary person, thinking that they're wrong and evil. There must be like a puppet master behind the scenes controlling the experts. Instead, the average person would rather put their faith in someone that has never studied math and never done anything properly in the subject that they're preaching about, like Terrence Howard. He has dedicated his life to being wrong. Meanwhile, the experts that just get fucking torched by people that don't understand math have an entire history of inventions to show for it that these people are literally using to criticize them. These inventions that they take for granted is the product of that math, not Terrence Howard's teriology math. If teriology was the correct mathematics, where are those drones that he was talking about for Uganda? Where is all of the potential huge breakthroughs using teriology? Where are those inventions? Now, over a year ago, I did make a video on Terrence Howard going over some of his more ridiculous and embarrassing moments. I'm not going to really harp on those here because a lot of people went from Joe Rogan to that video and said that I was just attacking him on like a personal level or something, which I really wasn't. I was just explaining why a lot of this is so silly and I was making fun of it, as everyone used to do back when we used to think for ourselves instead of just be spoon-fed all of our opinions. So, what I did talk about in that video is something I'm going to briefly mention though. He tried to scam all of Uganda by promising them these drones that literally just don't work. I'm just going to play you a clip from that again to remind you that Terrence Howard uses this math in pretty nefarious ways from time to time, like in the case with Uganda drones from the hydrogen proton geometry.
Was there for 2 years until I saw that there was an inconsistency with the math there. And so I went out to explore a new way of understanding how the universe works, and I was able to define the grand unified field equation they've been looking for and put it into geometry.
Once again, just a friendly reminder, there is nothing more consistent than 1 times 1 equals 1. To represent it one more time, I have one box with one waifu cup in it. 1 times 1. The total waifu cups is 1. One box has one of these in there. There is one of these in total.
And then with that geometry, I was able to put props on that. And what I'm saying is now we have invented a new form of flight that I would like to bring here to Uganda to replace the drones, to replace the helicopters, to replace the planes. Now, this is the geometry of hydrogen. Of hydrogen. Hydrogen. This is the proton itself. So any bond that hydrogen can make, our linchpins are able to make.
It's been 2 years since this, and it doesn't seem like Uganda's any closer to having those Terrence Howard promised hydrogen proton geometry new flight machines that reinvent flight as we know it. But maybe it's just a project that takes a long time. Maybe he's at Area 51 right now cooking that shit up with the aliens. Who's to say? There's just no updates on it. So I'm excited to see Terrence Howard's update on these hydrogen proton geometry flying machines. But let's be fair here, let's take a peek at both sides. Terrence Howard actually did publish something trying to prove that 1 times 1 equals 2 and that the world of science and math is wrong. You can read through the whole paper yourself if you'd like, and hopefully you'd come to the obvious conclusion that he is still incorrect in everything that he's breaking down here. He's using all these incredible leaps in logic to get to his conclusion. What I want to highlight, though, is in his own paper here, he has a whole section dedicated to the Anunnaki Sky People. Some call them the Anunnaki, the Sky People, whoever they were that gave naive generations some 6,000 years ago a multiplication table and a flat view of universal geometry. They gave that poor, misguided people a false axiom upon which to build their world. In a paper that's supposed to all be about logic and math, where the fuck did the Anunnaki Sky People come from here like a jump scare? What in the world? That should immediately trigger your bullshit alarms. That is unhinged to include in this. Like, it showcases that he fundamentally doesn't even understand where math comes from in the first place. He makes it seem like math is something that was given to us. Math is not an invention. Math is a discovery. It's something we learned. It's not something that we created based upon an Anunnaki Sky People gift. A ruse from the Anunnaki. Also, I love how he can just slide in whatever nonsense he wants without any type of citation or proof behind it. Oh yeah, this is all based upon what the Anunnaki gave us 6,000 years ago. Well, trust me, I know. I was there, actually. I saw it. Terrence Howard, I'm immortal. I saw it. I was actually there during the trade of the Anunnaki geometry and the naive generation 6,000 years ago. That's how. That's my proof. That's my evidence. Like, people just take what he says and just run with it. Like, oh, that's great. And like, they ignore it. Like, on Joe Rogan, he had a whole section dedicated to how he can remember his birth. It's legitimately not possible. There were some doctors that weighed in on this because a lot of people were like, this is incredible. He truly is like this super genius. He even remembers being in his mom's womb. You can't. You actually can't. You don't even start storing memories in your brain at those stages because it is still developing. So they're not fully developed. Thus, those parts that are responsible for memory storage and memory retrieval aren't there yet. You can't. And you certainly wouldn't be able to recall them. Now, a couple doctors did say that in very rare cases, you can recall some feelings, which is why if you had like a traumatic birth, that could play a role in your life later on. Like, you do form memories as a baby, but due to infantile amnesia, you can't recall them. So the memories you're forming are things like your mother's face, shit like that. As a baby, you do form those memories. You can recall your mom's face, but as you grow up, you are never going to remember those moments. You can't. Except in like extraordinarily rare cases, which don't have a ton of documentation surrounding or proof around, but there are a couple of cases where people do claim that they can. But in Terrence Howard's case, not even those extraordinary circumstances go as far as him, where he's remembering in the womb and saying to himself, don't forget, and then giving a name to his hand. That's just ridiculous. And then he says that the proof of this on Rogan is that when his wife was pregnant, he'd shine a light on her belly and then play music. And he did that for like a week, and then he stopped shining that light and playing the music, and then the baby's hand pushed on his mother's stomach. That was his proof that Terrence Howard remembered everything in his mom's womb. Once again, a complete misunderstanding of the things that he's fucking talking about with it. And there were a lot of people that said like, oh, that was a really weird section, but he was right about everything else. Why are we ignoring things like that? That is not something you should ignore. That is very clearly a red flag in the logic and the person behind the logic. It's ridiculous. Like, they're like, oh, no, he was definitely weird about the whole remembering being in the womb nonsense. But he was totally right about gravity not being real. Like, disproving gravity, he fucking nailed. And 1 × 1 = 2, absolutely on the money with it. Been saying it for years. It's so ridiculous. People just want to believe in the most, like, I don't even know the right word for it. The most over-the-top special ideas just to feel like they're smarter than everyone else. At least that's the impression I get. Because there is no way you would ever logically reach these conclusions unless you just wanted to believe Terrence Howard because it's fun and it makes you feel special. That's the only way. Because if you ever try and employ any of these in the real world, they fall on their fucking face. Again, 1 × 1 never equals 2. So if you ever try and use any of the teriology in your day-to-day life, it's not going to work. You're going to be left high and dry with your dick in your hand. It's not going to function. It can't. It doesn't. And for some reason, we are now in this age where people are just like, it doesn't matter. He's probably still right. Like, what the fuck? It's so stupid and frustrating. It really is. Like, again, I'm not even mad at Terrence Howard. Like, it's not a crime to be dumb. And it's not wrong to, like, pursue things outside of the already established, you know, mainstream belief system. I think that's extremely important to a healthy society, always challenging the things that you're given. But this is the exact opposite. People aren't challenging what Terrence Howard is feeding them. They're just accepting it with a fucking smile on their face and not asking any questions. Terrence Howard pursuing this is not the biggest deal in the world to me. In fact, I do think in a lot of cases that can be really helpful. If someone goes out and challenges like some really well-established theories or whatever, like, let's see. It's always important. But he has come back with incorrect conclusions and still preaches about how everyone else is wrong, without ever demonstrating why he's right. He has nothing to show for his teriology. No creations, no inventions, nothing. So it should immediately right there stop for him and be like, okay, you know what? This was, you know, a fruitless endeavor. I didn't get anything out of this. Maybe the math that we have is correct and is consistent because look at all we have to show for it. Look at all of this around us. We're surrounded by the product of mathematic breakthroughs. And Terrence Howard's math has nothing like that. So it should have come back like, okay, it was worth a try, didn't happen, we move on. And then he could have gone into different avenues to pursue more knowledge or more discoveries, but he hasn't. He has locked himself down to something that is completely false, and he's taking as many people with him as he can. And I think that shit sucks. People need to stop just taking in other people's perspectives as their own and start actually just thinking for themselves and putting into practice the things that they're being told to see if they make sense and if they're right. That's it. I mean, that's really about it. I'm not going to keep droning on about this. It's just so fucking frustrating.
That's it. See ya. You gotta watch the Neil deGrasse Tyson response to Terrence Howard.
So this is Terrence Howard attempting to reinvent mathematics and physics. A little back
successfully too, by the way.
Initial interest in Terrence.
Let's see what the comments are saying now. Because when this initially came out, all the comments were like, "Man, Terrence Howard is a fucking genius. Man, Terrence Howard really gets it. I didn't realize he was so intelligent." Meanwhile, he's actually just talking about gobbledygook. 1 × 1 = 2. I've reinvented sacred geometry with a hydrogen proton, selling drones to Uganda based on the hydrogen proton geometry, which the drones don't exist. Okay. Now the comments have flipped. They turned on him. I still remember the day, well actually the 3 or 4 days after this episode came out, people were like, "Man, Terrence Howard is so fucking smart. Look at what he said and look at what he did." And all the comments were on his side and shit about like, "Damn, so deep. I knew we couldn't trust math." But Charlie, he invented virtual reality. Check out his patent. Oh, I know. Not only did he invent virtual reality, he invented the very fucking dimension in which we inhabit while he was still in his mother's womb. Did you know he has memories from the womb? I know. He's just built so different. Would you debate Terrence Howard on his math? Sure. I feel like anyone would be more than willing to. But I also feel like if someone's going to debate Terrence Howard, it shouldn't be me. Because that would immediately bring Terrence Howard, that was supposed to be the guy reinventing math, down to the level of just a fucking goober streamer content creator. That's who I'll debate. That guy. I'll display my math prowess against that guy. No, not actual mathematicians, please, God, no. But I'd be more than willing to. It is completely indefensible with 1 × 1 = 2. The only way he gets away with that is by spamming buzzwords that actual Neanderthals think mean something. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what, you can never show that 1 × 1 = 2. But you can always show that 1 × 1 = 1. It's the easiest demonstration ever. And the only way Terrence Howard weasels his way out of it every time is just with nonsense quantum buzzwords. If you debated him, you should just out-buzzword him. Oh, I'd be dropping so many buzzwords on him just to, like, throw him in, like, some kind of fucking stun lock. Mr. Howard, please stop bloviating. It's like you haven't even considered the Bose-Einstein paradox. As, of course, you know this is elementary. And he'd be like, Bose-Einstein? Higgs boson? Action Bronson believes in Terrence Howard. Oh my god. Wait, is it a joke?
Like there's no way he just make...
This fucking genius. You can't just make up 1 × 1 = 2. That's... That... You can't do it. That's... inconceivable.
He's a lunatic. Like I've heard people say,
you can't just come up on that. You
he's
can't
making
just
things. I'm like, I don't think that's correct. He knows too much. No. So
I like how Joe Rogan immediately believes that Terrence Howard remembers being in his mother's womb and waving at his hand. He named his hand in his mom's womb before he had any concept of words or anything. In pitch darkness, he named his fucking hand and called it his friend in his mom's womb. He knows so much. Talking into is the result of mathematics, Action Bronson. It's all bullshit. Math's not real. I've never actually listened to Action Bronson speak or anything. Is this guy just actually a fucking imbecile? Or is this a joke? Is he playing a character? I'm getting half chat saying he's trolling and the other half are saying no, he's actually just really fucking dumb. I just don't know enough about Action Bronson as a person. How can you do this? Joe Rogan, I'll do it right now. Periodic table's wrong. I did it. I did it. I did it. That's how he does it. That's a secret. That's how. This is unbelievable. I don't know enough about Action Bronson to know whether or not he's being genuine here or if he's just playing, like, the buffoon. But Joe Rogan is so hook, line, and sinker on, like, the actual fucking stupid pill here. It's crazy. Or Terrence could be the greatest con man. To a certain extent, he's trying his best to scam Uganda with his hydrogen proton new geometry drones that'll protect Uganda and improve their agriculture. which don't exist and never will exist. The fucking hydrogen proton geometry drones. So he's scamming in that regard. But other than that, he's just being a fucking moron on the biggest stage ever. And that's about it. Actually kind of sad. Like, it's hard to even be frustrated. It's just sad. Like, it's just legitimately sad. Listening to this guy fucking fumble through like he had peanut butter in his mouth about the elements in between and the micros, and then openly admit like he's just trying to regurgitate something that he heard. It's just sad. It's not even frustrating. I don't know, man. I guess one thing I don't understand. So both of them are very open about being stupid. So Action Bronson's like, I'm an idiot, so I'm just trying to repeat what I heard once. Why wouldn't you just repeat the thing that you've heard that actually has results? So the math that you've heard, 1 × 1 = 1. Why wouldn't that be what you repeat when you are literally the product of that math? You would have died way before you hit this age if math was never to this level. You would have died of some kind of infection. You would have died trying to like finger your butt in the wrong part of the jungle and got eaten alive. You wouldn't have made it without math. So why wouldn't you be regurgitating that math that is keeping you alive and allowing you to have a career? I don't get it. I don't know why they would gravitate towards actually this math that has nothing to show for it, not a single invention, not a single basis in reality, not a single physical thing to show for it. That's the one I'm going to repeat. I just don't get it. I don't know how you gravitate to that. The least obvious psyop. Do you think? I don't know. I don't know if it's a psyop or not. It's like, I know that word gets tossed around like so many other buzzwords, but there is a chance. Like, I do think in this case there is a chance to keep people stupid, because it is legitimately just easier to control stupid people, 100%. So if you just have people like Action Bronson, Joe Rogan, Terrence Howard being like 1 × 1 = 2, don't trust math, and here's the hydrogen proton geometry, also zero's not real. Like, if you have people start believing in that, they become so much easier to control. So it could be a psyop. But I also think it's just equally likely that these dumb fucking people just really love the idea of feeling special and smart, so they just latch onto it. I've figured it out. I see. How about we start making math and science super fucking hype? So instead of this lame-ass picture here, put it on a pair of titties. I guarantee Joe Rogan and Action Bronson's fucking eyes would pop out of their skull like a Tom and Jerry cartoon going awooga if they saw real math and science, but it was on, like, boobies. Maybe that's all we need. The math gave me a boner, so it must be true. I think we're onto something. I actually think we're onto something. I think that could be the key. That's what we've been missing this whole time.
It's like a very specific thing they did to them.
Yeah, but... And it revealed the yin-yang?
That's what it looks like.
It's quantum intent.
Action Bronson, what does the yin-yang mean to you? What do you think that it revealed the yin-yang? What do you think those words mean? It's with a heavy heart that I bring you all some sad news about Joe Rogan. I get no pleasure in talking about this, but I think it's important to address. Joe Rogan has done something remarkably silly, if you can believe that. He made a bit of a boo-boo, a mistake, a very public mistake, and one that I am personally involved in. Now, I'll go ahead and be upfront and honest out the gate here, because honesty is the best policy, as my old 4th grade teacher used to say, God rest their soul. I don't really listen to Rogan much anymore. It's been quite some time since I watched or listened to a full Rogan episode, but I do still keep up to a certain degree, and recently he made a bit of a blunder on his show. Now, I'm also very familiar with the memes that have floated around about Rogan for at least a couple years now about him being dead. And after this clip, I'm starting to believe in the conspiracy. Maybe Joe Rogan really did pass away a while back and he's been replaced by an AI chat GPT, because I cannot wrap my head around how he even made this mistake. So what happened is, Joe Rogan was talking about a very sad video he watched of a father-son boxing match where the father beat the shit out of his son, and people cheered and it made him sick. Hearing that story, of course, does tug on the heartstrings and would probably make most people a little confused and maybe even angry. But the problem is, what Joe Rogan is describing is not the reality of what he watched. What he was talking about is the Creator Clash, which was a YouTuber boxing event, and the match in particular he's referring to is Matt Watson vs. Dad. Dad is the YouTuber's online handle. So Joe Rogan watched that and believed it was a real father-son boxing match, and where I get involved is I was literally one of the commentators for this match. So you'd have to actually be watching that with the sound off and very close to passing out from overdosing on Xanax to even for 1 second believe what you were witnessing was a real father-son match.
I saw a video today of a boxing match between a father and a son. It made me so sad. It made me so sad. Because there's this young kid. He looks like he's probably like 17 or 18. And the father's 42. And the father beats the shit out of him. I mean, like, dings him in the head and keeps punching him. I'm like, that's your son. That's your son.
What I find extremely entertaining about this situation is he has an entire team around him, and not a single one bothered to correct him until the very end after he had already made a fool of himself. They're probably just like giggling, listening to him tell this story, just waiting for the moment to drive the knife in to let him know, like, no, you actually got that super fucked up. You got that so twisted, that's not what happened. But this isn't even a matter of Joe Rogan not doing research. This goes a step beyond this. This is a matter of Joe Rogan not even bothering to turn the sound on to the video he's talking about. Because if you unmuted it, you would hear us, the commentators, explaining like the event and the situation and what was going on. So he had to have watched this with the sound off in order to even come close to misunderstanding what was happening. And even then, that's a stretch. You'd also have to be way too high to read, because when they walk out, their subscriber numbers are posted under their name. So like all of the signs and clues are there and drilled into the spectator's head, and somehow it misses Joe entirely, which is just wild to me. And I love that he's wearing like an astronaut spacesuit during this this rant that he goes on here, because it fits the mood beautifully. It's such a wonderful compliment. Now, to be fair to Joe, in his defense, at the end of the clip he mentions that the video title he watched misled him. And in that clip that he references, the original audio is gone and replaced with a guy lying about the whole situation. And I just still don't understand why Joe would just take all of that at face value without just watching the original clip without the voiceover. I feel like he would have done both. Like, after being made aware of the situation, he then would have watched the original. But then maybe I'm putting too much faith in his process. Like, maybe I'm giving too much credit for his researching. Maybe he just watched this YouTuber voiceover that fed him a lot of misinformation and just instantly believed it without a second thought.
And we're watching you beat your son up, because I get your son probably got cocky with you, and he celebrates after he knocks his son out. It made me so sad. Because first of all, I'm like, that kid has brain damage now, 100%. Maybe it's just a little, maybe he'll be fine, maybe he'll get over it, but maybe you fucked him up. That can happen too. He might be depressed from now on after that. It might fuck up his pituitary gland. It happens to people. And you just did that to your son. You're supposed to like touch him up. You're supposed to not even hurt him. Like slam him in the body a little bit. Like, you think he can fight? Okay, dude. Okay, let's have a little boxing match. You don't tee off on your son's face on television. It's crazy.
That is crazy, and I really love the fantasy Joe was in for however brief a time, that he had just watched a clip from a television broadcast where a father beats the fuck out of their son live in front of an audience as everyone cheers. That is such an amazing, like, visual. And Joe's like, this is madness. What are we, barbarians? What happened to civilization? We're watching fathers beat their son for sport. What's next? Are we going back to the Coliseum? Blood sports? Watching people die? When will the madness end? What's next in this lunacy? It's just so wild that this actually happened.
How old was the kid?
Kid looks young. To me, he looks like, you know, he could be 20. He could be 19. He looks young. He's real skinny. And the father's kind of jacked. Not too jacked, but, you know, he's fit. And he could fucking punch. He knows how to box. And the son doesn't look like he has any idea what the fuck he's doing. I don't know what the thing was. Like, someone sent it to me, and they were, like, cheering that this old guy knocked his son out. I was like, you guys are crazy. That you failed. You've failed
was
as a
it
man.
this?
Yeah, this is it.
That's
Oh
not
my
exactly
gosh.
what was happening.
It's not? What is it?
They're not father-son.
Oh, why does it lie? It says father knocks out son at celebrity boxing match.
Gotta get somebody to click on this.
Oh.
This was like a YouTuber thing. This guy's a YouTuber and he's a YouTuber.
I'm such a sucker.
For some reason, this was oddly cute, where he's like, oh, why would they lie? Reminds me of that scene in Arthur about, would someone really do that? Go online and tell lies? Like, Joe is just like so trusting. He's like, oh, I got betrayed. The title misled me. Man, I'm such a sucker. Like, at least he owned up to it. Like, I appreciate that he didn't try and fight and get defensive about it. Now, I went to the video here, and it's only 30 seconds, and it's actually none of the audio from the actual event. It's another man who's just spreading misinformation, saying this was a father-son grudge match. And I guess for some reason, Joe Rogan took all of that at face value. I just find it hard to believe that he only watched that 30-second clip and just believed it. Because Joe Rogan questions fucking everything. So he's just going to a random channel in like 360p because it's been fucking ripped and re-uploaded 1,000 times, so it's in shit quality. And for some reason, Joe Rogan just believed a completely random stranger online telling lies. I'm just still not fully convinced that he just received this random email and just watches everything that gets sent to him. This is a 20,000 view video. Are you telling me Joe Rogan sits there late at night and just goes through his entire email list of every single video sent to him, no matter how small, and just believing every single thing he sees? I don't know. That just doesn't strike me as realistic. But then after this situation, I guess it could be. Who knows? But since we're talking about Joe Rogan, I always like to take an opportunity to bring up his incredible nipples. Those are absolutely legendary. So I'm going to play you a stream clip where we go deep on Joe Rogan's nipples, because I think every time he's mentioned in conversation, it's important that we highlight just how beautiful those puppies are. We all know you love Joe Rogan's long nips. I don't know how many times I need to talk about how great his nipples are. He has the best nipples in the game. Legitimately, no one has a better set of udders than Joe Rogan. And since you brought it up, now I've got to pull up the picture, because I already know there's going to be people in here who haven't seen them. They're fucking incredible. They're actually fucking incredible. Oh, this is this is my tweet too. When you type in Joe Rogan nipples, it's my tweet. That's so fucking amazing. I'm glad. Just look at those. Look at those puppies. Just like two tiny little fingers. I know, this happens every time I bring up Joe Rogan's nipples. It always blows my mind that more people haven't seen these. They're so cool. It casts its own shadow. I've talked about that before too. Joe Rogan's nipples are kind of like the thing Carl Sagan made where you could prove the world was round using like 2 pillars. He talked about that experiment where they like erected 2 pillars, and judging by the shadow they were able to deduce that the world was round. You could do that same experiment on Joe Rogan's nipples. They're like little sundials. Yeah. Like I said, he's got the best pair in the game. Like, not even close. I have never seen nipples that look like Joe's. I didn't even think they could. They're like 2 tiny little tater tots. Well, tiny's the wrong word. They're anything but tiny. You could attach a car battery to them. Why is your website in a different language? Because for some reason when I googled his nipples, it defaulted to whatever language this is. I don't know why. But it's my tweet that it went to, which is cool. Why do they protrude so much? Has he talked about his condition of his nipples? That's a great question. Has he ever talked about them? I imagine he must have at some point. Like, at least somewhat addressed it. Like, hey, here's what's up with my nipples. I see nothing wrong with them. I think they're glorious. But I don't think you're going to see many of these out there in the world. These are rare. Dude was in a cold bath? Yeah, obviously he was in a cold bath. That doesn't change it. Like, if I'm cold, like let's say I poured ice into a bucket and I just sat in the bucket for like a couple minutes. My nipples would get hard, but they wouldn't look like that. They don't like wumbo your nips. And it also wouldn't just delete his areolas. I don't know where his areolas went, but they were not there anymore.